Okay, so in this video, I'll be showing you my LinkedIn outreach process, the basically system that I basically use for myself and for my clients to basically, which is a very straightforward system that I like to use in order to book sales calls pretty consistently. So let's first talk about outreach itself. And obviously, my handwriting is awful, but we'll ignore that. So, a lot of people don't really like the idea of outreach. And there's a few reasons for that. One of which is that they get pitched a lot of the time, or I guess outreached a lot by other people anyway. And so, as a result of that, obviously, people are going to feel pretty salesy. And it's not something particularly many people really want to do, or at least on a consistent basis. Life is so much better if instead of outreach, you could just rely on things like maybe content or referrals or something, and then no problem. But the only issue is that with things like content referrals, these things do not give you the control over your lead generation, which is why things like outreach for me is really important because it gives you some level of control. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is with outreach, I know that if I connect with a certain amount of people and I reach out to a certain number of people, and from there I am going to understand that from however many people this is, however many people will effectively give me a positive response rate, will say no, or will just not respond, right? And so from that, I can usually get a bit of an average idea, which means that I know if I send a certain number of messages, I'm going to get a certain type of result from it. As a result, in comparison to something like content, where obviously if I were to post 7 times a week, I mean, I posting about 5 videos a week, then it's like, well, I don't know what's going to happen with that. And for reference, my video content on LinkedIn doesn't really get like, well, probably gets barely any impressions anyway. So it's like, well, if I'm having to rely on that, then it's going to be really, really challenging. So let's sort of talk more about actually what this outreach process can look like, because I want to try and make this as straightforward to you as possible so that it's easy for you to sort of basically start doing today. So, my outreach process can be broken into a few steps. The first step with the outreach process that we're going to be covering is sending connections. So, reason why I'm sending connections is because we want to get in front of our ideal client. And so, the best way to do that is to send connections so that we actually get in front of them. Then, obviously, when we send a connection, a few things can happen. They either accept it or they don't. That's pretty simple, right? But what you need to understand is that when you're trying to get in front of your ideal clients, obviously book sales calls with people, close them. Connections is really, the first sort of way to go and do that. And here's the thing, because you have an element of control to this, right? So let's say, for example, we were going to, connect them through LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Well, with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, we can create a very specific list of our ideal client, right? So for me, I might filter for things like founder. I might filter for things such as a certain headcount. I might filter for, say, when they were recently active on LinkedIn. That's really important. Might filter for certain industries, so usually I might business filter for more like business industries and B2B and so on and so forth. And once I've created that list, and for reference, a good list in my opinion is between around maybe 1,500 to about 3,000. Then once you've done that, you can then save that list. I mean, usually I bookmark it. And then all it is really is then sending usually about 20 to 30 connection requests every single day, Monday to Friday. Because what this means is that no matter if people say yes or no, you're getting in front of 20 to 30 of your ideal clients. And obviously, assuming that you filtered for them being active, then that's happening for sure. It's obviously a matter of if they accept it or not. So this is really key because when you send these connection requests, they chances are, they might then take a look at your profile. And if they take a look at your profile, right, they then go and obviously see your banner. They're going to see, your headline. Oh, that's awful drawing. They're going to see your headline, and they're going to probably scroll down to see even things such as your content, which is why when I make video content, yeah, okay, maybe it doesn't get many impressions and such, on LinkedIn. But it means that if someone looks at more about what I do, chances are they might even look at the most recent videos, which is obviously going to further boost my authority and boost sort of trust levels, making them more likely to reach out or at least respond or accept that connection request. So, there's a lot going on with this sort of first connection thing. But in terms of what you have to do, is literally make the list, and you're probably going to spend about maybe 4 minutes a day, if that, sending those 20 to 30 connection requests from that list. And for reference, that's without a note. The reason I do that is just because we don't want to message them just yet. We just want to send a connection request, because if they accept it, that's when obviously we can start a message. So that's pretty much the first process. And, like I said before, this is probably going to take about 3 minutes, like, or, 4 to 5 minutes a day. Then from there, once we've done that, this is when effectively we want to then send the first message. Now, what we're going to do here is pretty simple. So we're basically going to look at our new connections. We're going to look at the new connections, and we're going to basically open up all the profiles of these new connections. Now, in this case, for example, let's say I send, I don't know, 25 connection requests. Sorry. Let's say I send 25 connection requests and about 5 people accept, right? Then what I can do is I can then reach out to these 5 people. Now, you can still reach out to people that aren't your connections. Obviously, that would go down slightly more of the colder route, but I'm just going to focus on warmer outreach today. And so then we can send the message to them, right? And for reference, obviously, let's say you were able to message 5 people a day, then you're looking at about 25 new conversations every week, 100 a month, and you'd like to think that from 100 warmer conversations, you'd be able to book in at least a couple of sales calls. So once we actually then obviously have those leads, we then want to send a message. Now, what I want to do, I want to show you exactly what I focus on with outreach. So there's 2 things I'm focusing on with outreach. I'm focusing on personalizing the message to them, and I'm focusing on being able to ask a qualifying question. So here's why. When it comes to personalizing the message, I want to focus on making sure that this message was only for them, right? This message wasn't automated, it actually more relevant to them. And by personalization, what I mean is, like, I'll look at their recent post and I'll try and I say I'll try and personalize it to that. Usually, I'm gonna try and make some sort of maybe playful compliment, playful remark around that post, around opinions of that post, so something which they can genuinely resonate with, right? And for reference, it's not enough to say, "Hey, saw your recent post," or "Hey, I liked your post on X," or whatever, right? You wanna, effectively, the main rule is that the more effort you put in, the more it shows that you've taken the time to look at it, the better. Now, sometimes what I'll even do is I'll even forward their own post to themselves and compliment that way. That way, it looks less automated. But so that's really the main goal, because obviously people get messaged all the time. So that's really that. Then there's a matter of the qualifying question. Now, obviously, you're probably aware that you get pitched a lot of the time, and it's pretty unasked for. And for me, when I see paragraphs and paragraphs of just message, I genuinely don't even read it. No matter how good the offer may be, I really just don't even clock it in. So you don't want to overwhelm people with the message you do ask. However, if you don't ask a question and try and see if they have a problem you can solve or not, then the odds of them going and asking that is also pretty slim. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically just trying to see, like, my only objective here is to see if they have a problem that I can solve, or whoever I'm messaging as. So in this case, for example, if I were to send a message, say for myself, I might have a question which asks them something along the lines of, just wondering, how's the LinkedIn lead flow been? Or, just wondering, how's the LinkedIn lead generation been or whatever, right? But the whole idea with that is that it's short, it's pretty casual, but it's also open as well, right? And this is really, really key because, and like I'm still in the process of testing things out, right? I don't have something that's finite or finished. I still sort of test and play around with these things. But generally speaking, when I'm sending messages and when I'm receiving messages, this is what I am looking for and this is what other people are looking for. And so if you're and generally speaking, the qualifying question will always be the same. It's just the personalization part which is going to be a bit different. And obviously I'll test out different qualifying questions as well. Typically maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks if I feel like there needs to be a change. But this is pretty much it, right? And I mean, once you're in a routine where you're sending 20 to 30 connection requests every day, Monday to Friday, which might take 4 minutes, you're then sending maybe 5 new messages every day, which I mean, I'm not, I mean, what maybe takes 15, perhaps 20 minutes, right? And obviously, if you do these together, then you're looking at maybe 25 minutes a day. Then that's ideal. Then really from there, the last thing I probably would say is obviously then following people up, which this doesn't have to be crazy either. Generally speaking, what I do for follow-ups, I follow up people 3 times. And the follow-ups want to be similarly done to the way we did the qualifying question. We want it to be short, we want it to be, just sort of pretty casual. And effectively, all we're trying to do is just basically push this up for them, right? But do in a pretty casual and friendly way. And what I'll do is usually follow up one will be about 4 days after the last touch point. Follow up two is going to be about 5 days after the last touch point, and then follow up three is going to be about 6 days after. So I try and space it out, but generally speaking, I'm going to follow people up 3 times because some people are genuinely busy, right? Obviously, yeah, there'll be people that view your message and have chosen not to respond for a very good reason, but you just have to assume that they haven't got around to seeing it. And some people view your message, but then genuinely don't get back to responding to it. So it's important to be able to follow up as well. So this is my pretty much my outreach process, and I try to make it obviously as sort of straightforward as possible. But effectively, all we're looking at here is after this video, if you haven't done already, is get LinkedIn Sales Navigator, create a very specific list of your ideal client. Filtering for oh hello, we're gone. Filtering for things such as their sort of role, their sort of LinkedIn activity, being able to filter for, their sort of industry and such. Then once you've done that, you can save that, you can bookmark that, and then you can start sending 20 to 30 connection requests over here, which is ideal, and that's probably going to take about 4 minutes. Then from there, when people do accept, you want to basically take the people that do accept. So let's say you sent, I don't know, 25 to 30 in one day. And let's say the next day, I don't know, 5 new connections were added that were your ideal clients. Then obviously you can open the profiles of those, and you can make sure to effectively what I'll do is that I'll almost like paste a template in there with the qualifying question being the same at the bottom, but then obviously I'll then change the personalization so it actually feels like to them. Then from there, obviously, it is just then following up. If you're not following up, you really should be, just because it's something which is often neglected. And I get outreach a lot of the times, but I get very few follow ups. And the people that follow me up, I'm usually more likely to respond to, even if that is a no. Because at the end of the day, I would much rather get a no than get no response at all. So that's really key. But hopefully you found this useful. If you do want any help with LinkedIn lead generation and you're looking for a done for you solution, then you can look at my website and learn more about what it is that I do, and we can have a bit of a chat as well. But other than that, hope you found this useful, and I'll chat soon.